Divide the pork. Taylor Swift, the undoubted best female singer after the millennium, or absolutely, changed to the best singer, is also fully qualified. Because her shelf life is too long, Eric is still at her peak before she crosses, and the stars who have competed with her in the same era. For example, Britney Spears, Teardrop Quack, Justin Bieber, etc., all of them gradually faded in popularity, or occasionally the nerve knife shocked the world, but then disappeared. Only Mildew belongs to the constant new, always walking on the road of innovating and surpassing oneself. A few years before her debut, her singing skills and style were not perfect, and although she was popular at that time, she was still some way from reaching the top. Especially when hitting the most authoritative B-list, I can often encounter all kinds of heavenly comedies, and then I am crushed, which is a little unlucky, so I am nicknamed Mildew by fans. Of course, this nickname also has the meaning of praising her as a beauty, and beauty is replaced by mold. And she is also the one who opened the door to the era of digital payment for songs, and the premise of being able to do this is that someone is willing to pay for your songs, which shows her attractiveness. The total number of fans, MVs, and songs played on major social media and video sites are among the best. The key is that she is always focused on making music, unlike some artists and singers who use her fame to engage in brands, sell cosmetics, and sell goods or something, and the old lady has beaten your business empire with the income from concerts and albums. Although her ex-boyfriend has a dozen, it does not affect the number of her male fans at all, because the songs are suitable for all ages, up to 60 or 70, and down to children's fans. A global concert can drive more than $10 billion of direct consumption, and indirect consumption has reached tens of billions of US dollars, so leaders or senior officials of Mexico, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Indonesia, and other countries have invited her to come to the concert. If MJ was the world's #1 superstar in the 80s and 90s, then Taylor Swift was the undisputed superpower after 2010, and her appearance put global music in a situation where it was superpowered. In the field of film, the last superstar in the world is Leonardo DiCaprio, and in the world of songs, it is Taylor Swift. As for whether there will be the next world-class superstar, I'm afraid it's already difficult. At most, it is to have influence in one's own country and neighborhood, and it is almost impossible to reach out to the whole world. "How's this little girl's singing skills?" asked Eric, pointing to a picture of the green mold. My co glanced at it. "It's not bad. She takes the rural route. She is not the top in this batch of students. She is at the upper middle level. The main thing is that she is still young, and the development of her body and voice at the age of 14 is not complete, and some people will be amazing because of their young age, and some people will be limited because of it. Those players in front of you didn't see that you were serious. Do you think this little girl has a future?" Eric nodded, thinking that she was too promising, a walking money printing machine. "Very good. I like her name, Taylor, Tiger, tough girl, ha ha ha." My co laughed at the homonym and then waved his hand. No. Swift doesn't look tough at all. She's a lovely little girl, and when I first saw the picture, I felt like a field girl from a distant village. Listening to her song demos, I can think of a set of images in my mind. It's usually sleeping on the grass, or holding a wooden guitar, occasionally holding a dog's tail grass in his mouth, and gently humming a song he wrote. Eric looked at the photos of the mildew carefully, and he really felt that the village was a little more earthy, and his facial features were not as three-dimensional as in later generations. It should have been a knife, at least the corners of the eyes, nose, and mouth, but it's nothing, it's all microplastic surgery, which star doesn't do it. Jackie Chan still opened his eyes when he was young. As long as he succeeded, he was sought after. In short, I have to sign Taylor Swift. I have a hunch that she will become a world-class singer in the future. Eric, are you so optimistic about her? Well, my hunch has always been accurate, and no matter how many titles she gets for The Voice, we're going to sign her. Listen to you. But there is a little trouble at the moment. Taylor Swift is now signed to RCA Records, and if you want to sign her, you need to get her consent, as well as the consent of her parents, and pay a liquidated damages. But the price is not high, after all. She is just a newcomer and a little transparent, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then find a way to convince this little girl it's not enough for you to be an artist, we need more. Eric continued to flip through his resume, and soon a familiar name came into his eyes, Katie Hudson. Many people should not know this name, because she later changed her name to Katy Perry, which is also known to the public as Sister Fruit. Although her achievements are not as good as Mold, she is also a first-class female singer who has been popular. This girl is not bad, Santa Barbara. She is actually a girl from Santa Barbara. My button nodded. Don't be surprised. She is a bit famous in the local area. A very popular local singer. Even I have heard that if you go to a bar to consume, you may meet Katie Hudson on stage. Does she have a contract company now? Nope. After signing the sign, I have a hunch that this girl will also become popular. My buckle couldn't help frowning and asked hesitantly, Eric, do you want to find a singer or a lover? Huh? Why are you only interested in women? These lads are not bad, like this Cylin. His rap is very stylish, he sounds great. And this, he has a very good voice. Eric pouted helplessly, thinking to himself what I could do. The others didn't know me. This is still very famous. If it is an ordinary singer, who is only popular in the United States, he will not know him in front of him. I continued to look down, until the last one. A third acquaintance appeared, and finally a young man came. The photo is clearly mixed race, with brown skin and large bright eyes. The name column reads Peter Keen Hernandez, a name that many people must not have heard of, as he would later change his name. Bruno Mars, nicknamed Brother Mars, is a popular male singer in the future and a frequent visitor to the Grammys. A riotous song, Uptown Funk, Chongqing Funk, and Magical MV Dance made him completely popular all over the world. A stock can explain his strength. Martian Old Immortal, Boundless Mana. I'm not looking for a lover. This young guy is also very good, Hawaiian. Born in Hawaii and currently living in New York, I prefer hip-hop rock and have no contract with the company. Very well, then we want it too. I feel like this kid is going to be a big star too. Well, you said that you signed it. At least it proves that you are not choosing a concubine for yourself. Unexpectedly, Billy went out for a few months and really found a few rising stars, and sure enough, like Judy, he had a lucky physique. Friday afternoon, just before the end of work. At the MGM building, a meeting is taking place, and all the company executives are in attendance, except for Cooper and his son. Everyone's attention was focused on the two fathers and sons, and there was a faint look of excitement in their eyes. They had thought that this day would come, but they never thought it would come so quickly. At the beginning, many people chose to join the team because of Shelley Cooper's face, but they didn't expect that after only half a year after entering the game, Shelley Cooper had a faint tendency to retire and began to hand over all the powers of the company to his son. Even if many people don't say it, they are very worried in their hearts, afraid that MGM, which is recovering, will collapse. Until recent months, movies such as Happy Death Day and Hold Your Breath have been successful one after another, winning a lot of box office with a small boda. And the release of Transformers, which currently has more than 700 million worldwide. In any industry, strength speaks, and everything proves that Eric Cooper is an incomparably wise leader, and his decisions almost never fail. Now, everyone is following his leadership with all their hearts, hoping that he can lead everyone to a brighter future. Today is the time to witness the results of more than a year of hard work, referred to as the Pork Sharing Conference. Eric looked at Charlie Cooper. Say a few words, Dad. Although he is no longer involved in the business, my father's current position is still the president. He nodded slightly and first breathed a long sigh of relief, as if he wanted to spit out the accumulated silt for many years. After sitting in this position for so many years, I finally got what I wanted and saw the day of MGM's rise. Although it is not what he does, what is the difference between his son and himself? If he hadn't believed in him and given $10 million, he wouldn't be where he is today. In other words, he is equivalent to an angel investor. We are here today for what we are sitting for, and we all know in our hearts. MGM is going to remarket, and to be able to do this step is inseparable from everyone's efforts. It's the result of our collective struggle, and it's inseparable from everyone's sweat. So everything is what you deserve. Here, I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Papa.
The conference room burst into warm applause. Dad looked at Eric. He nodded and said, "I won't say anything superfluous. This time MGM will take out 30% of the shares for listing financing. Another 15% of the shares will be used for internal financing, and the opportunity is here, and how much you can eat depends on your ability." There was an exclamation in the HO conference room, and many people suddenly became short of breath. The 15% share was a bit more than they expected, and when everyone discussed it privately, they thought that Eric would take up to 10% and put a larger share on the market. There is no doubt that this approach will bring greater benefits to the company and to him personally. But he chose to give more benefits to the guys who fought the world together, and many people instantly had a sense of death for their confidence, and this kind of boss was hard to find with a lantern. But what is not clear to everyone is that the reason why Eric is so generous is because he has a bigger trump card in his hand, which is Facebook and YouTube. Even in 2023, Disney and Netflix are strong enough. Looking at global film and television companies, they belong to the two-man competition, and other companies are not enough to fight. Even so, the market capitalization of the two companies fluctuates around $200 billion and sometimes $250 billion. On the other hand, how much is Facebook? Once exceeded $1 trillion, all the film and television companies in the world combined are not as valuable as a Facebook. Even if the stock price plummeted later due to various decision-making mistakes, such as investing in the metaverse and other confusing layouts, it can still be maintained at about $600 billion, which still exceeds the combined market value of all film and television companies in the world. YouTube, on the other hand, has always belonged to Google and has never been listed. Countless people and countless institutions are waiting for it to go public independently, and it has given a valuation of nearly $400 billion, which is also far more than Disney and Netflix. So the ceiling of engaging in film and television companies is there. It is indeed too far behind social media, and the status and discourse power of the two are not at the same level at all. So taking out 45% of the shares for financing, Eric is not distressed, and he needs money, and 45% is just the first step. The money in exchange for this time will be used to repay debts and support the operation and development of Facebook and YouTube. In the future, he will continue to raise funds until the remaining shares in his hands are maintained at 10% to 15%. In addition, another 20% of the shares were sold to AK Film and Television, and the left hand was reversed. When AK Film and Television grows bigger in a few years, it will definitely embark on the road of listing, and then it will continue to use another company to hold part of the shares of AK Film and Television and continue to nest. And although he sold 15% of his shares to this group of executives this time, they may not have the strength to eat them all. While these shares are not as valuable as they were after going public, they are far greater than when Eric first became MGM. A film and television company is different from the real industry. It is a company that relies on storytelling to increase the stock price, and the better the story, the higher the market's expectations for you. As things stand, MGM's story is clearly very well told, so the 15% stake is actually worth $800 million. Don't think Eric is asking for a high price. The process on the government's side has come to the end, and the price is close to double this amount, and he is really very conscientious to send the opportunity to make money to his subordinates. However, even if these people have been executives for many years and can get tens of millions of dollars a year, even if they sell iron to take out loans, Eric estimates that they will not be able to make $800 million together. According to the regulations, after the listing, the company's executives want to sell their shares to cash out, and the ban will be lifted after 1 year, and the founder will lift the ban after 3 years. Within a year, the shares can only be held in your hands, and you can really buy them with a loan, and if they fall, you are afraid that there will be a trapeze. The bet is on whether or not Eric can always work miracles. And what they can't buy will naturally be put on the market together. The market will be financed, so there is a high probability that more than 30% of the shares will actually be put on the market. The meeting didn't last long, and after the end, everyone dispersed instantly. Needless to say, they all tried to raise money. Transformers was released for a month, and the box office was released in the 4th week. After earning $52.5 million in the 3rd week, the North American box office this week reported $27 million, a normal decline, and the total North American box office came to $364 million. Don't look at this number, but it still won the box office championship this week and won the 4th consecutive week. Magic Grey Cat, The Last Samurai, Sweet Dance, Kill Bill, etc. are not opponents. Even Sony Columbia's newly released movie, the romantic comedy Love is a Compromise, which gathers veteran actors Jack Nicholson, Diane Keaton, and Keanu Reeves, has also failed. Jack Nicholson does have superb acting skills, especially The Shining and The Joker, but he is really old and not attractive enough for young people. If he plays a supporting role and Keanu Reeves plays the leading role, the box office will definitely go up a level. In the end, Love is a Compromise only got more than $16 million at the box office, ranking 3rd. Sweet Dance was squeezed into 4th place, and Magic Grey Cat has fallen to 5th place because of too poor word of mouth. On the contrary, The Last Samurai is still strong, still sitting in the runner-up position, getting $26.5 million at the box office this week, and is almost on the top of the championship. But this is its last chance, and losing this week means that it won't win a single week, because The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King, is about to be released. It is foreseeable that Transformers will also step down from the throne with dignity and hand over the crown to the hands of the Knights of Middle-earth. The 4-week winning title is dazzling enough, and Eric is satisfied, including MGM. In terms of overseas box office, the last 20 countries landed in more than 20 countries this week, and the box office fell slightly. After getting $95 million in the 3rd week, he slashed $77 million this week, unsurprisingly sitting on the weekly title of these countries. At present, the overseas box office of Transformers has received $805 million, officially breaking the $800 million box office mark. Last week, The Matrix 2, which was still in front of him, was cut down, and Transformers left the savior behind with a huge gap of more than $60 million. Now the only thing standing in front of us is Finding Nemo, and Disney is still trembling because the difference between the two is less than $70 million. Even though the hurricane period of Transformers is over, with The Last Energy, it may not get $70 million a week, but 2 weeks is stable. The clownfish Nemo father and son will most likely not be able to resist the impact of the Autobots and will give up the throne of the global box office champion in 2003. But don't be too happy for the Autobots. The Middle-earth Knights have already booked the annual champion, and no one can change that. Clownfish has been on the throne for at least half a year, and Transformers should abdicate in a month. But the good thing is that the Lord of the Rings trilogy is over, and the next reshooting must allow the market to recover for a few years. At the premiere of The Lord of the Rings 3, Eric and Godot attended the platform to help out, which immediately attracted a cheer from fans, and there were many people who liked both movies at the same time. Peter Jackson put his arm around his shoulder. "Look at you, guy. You're much more popular than me, and I don't know if I think this is your home field." Eric pushed his beard away. "You should lose weight, Peter, and this big beard makes you look 10 years older." "Do you know why I'm more popular than you? Because I'm young and handsome." Next to him, Cate Blanchett, who played the Elf Queen, and Liv Taylor, who played the Elf Princess, happened to pass by, and they couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. Female stars in Europe and the United States have always been more bold, and there is no such thing as smiling without showing teeth, maintaining appearance, and not messing up makeup. Especially in the non-serious evening ceremonies, I am often caught with memes and all kinds of jokes, and the jokes here are not derogatory. This kind of performance will not actually reduce their status in the hearts of fans, but will appear down-to-earth and more popular. Peter Jackson pointed to Godot's back and said, "See, if you want to really catch fire, you can't rely on me. You can rely on this young man. Come on, beautiful lady, now I give you the chance. Maybe you can get the heroine of his next play." With that, he pushed Eric back into the arms of Cate Blanchett and Liv Taylor and walked away with the suit that was about to be stretched open by the big belly, and the two women stood on Eric's left and right and posed. The bearded man is right. If you want to say who is the hottest female star in Hollywood right now, fans and the media will inevitably tell you that it is Gal Gadot. In just 2 films, MGM has made her a global icon, with countless interviews, invitations, fashion magazines, and brand endorsements one after another. In the past, Eric could walk into Godot's apartment openly and do whatever he wanted. Not now. There have been more paparazzi since Happy Death Day, and now there are paparazzi who squat every day. The two can only sneak out on a date, and Eric thinks that it's time to give the last house to Godot. For Frodo. With a roar of rage for Frodo, the Middle-earth coalition charged towards Mordor. As the One Ring was carried by Gollum and fell into the magma of Mount Doom, Sauron's big eyes instantly collapsed. The orc army fled, and the coalition was victorious. In the White City, at the coronation of the Emperor of Aragon, everyone knelt down to thank the 4 hobbits. Even though this scene has been watched many times, Eric still feels the heat rushing, and the classic really never goes out of style, and it can be touching at any time you watch it. There are not a few viewers who have the same idea as him, and you can get a glimpse of it from the warm applause after the movie. "Oh no. I have a bad feeling, my dear," Godot whispered. "What's wrong?" said Eric, looking at her strangely. "This movie, The Lord of the Rings, was unexpectedly good, and oh my god, I didn't like this kind of epic fantasy, but I was still drawn to it. Look at these fanatical fans. Their screams are literally tearing the ceiling up. It's horrible." What's wrong? Isn't that normal? I love it too." "Why are you suddenly stupid, Eric? I mean the box office. The box office of Transformers. We have a chance to lose." Eric slapped his head and thought to himself, "You're daydreaming. You really want to win." Quietly pinched Godot's palm. "If you lose, you will lose. Don't care about this kind of thing. There is no shame in losing to a masterpiece like The Lord of the Rings, which is destined to leave fame in history. You can think of it this way. We are qualified to compete with The Lord of the Rings for first place in The Ring, and other movies do. So we've succeeded. Isn't it more comfortable to think like this?" Godot sneered. "You know how to comfort people. Hee, go talk to those people. I've got something to do with Peter Jackson." After the premiere, Eric and Peter Jackson left together, and the two found a quiet literary bar to sit down. Coming to help stand today is just the surface, and the real purpose is to plan for the future. Some time ago, John Adams had already written, and the questions of the network were ready. 5 days ago, Facebook underwent a maintenance upgrade, which was actually a first attempt to connect the network to it. The results are great. It used to take users 2 or 3 seconds to swipe a homepage, but after the upgrade, it can be opened almost in seconds. An online survey with excellent user feedback. Facebook is fine, then YouTube and Lionheart are certainly no problem. Howard Hughes and Robert Millen, with a team of more than 300 people, have been engaged in the algorithm for more than half a year. After testing, the initial standard required by Eric was met, and the follow-up was continuous update and development. The backend databases of the three software have been synchronized to the same format, and one account can be logged in at the same time as long as it is online. It can be said that all the preparations have been completed. In less than a month, MGM will be back on the market, and YouTube will go live immediately after the launch. After the YouTube pipeline stabilizes, it is expected that Lionheart will be launched in half a month. YouTube's words will definitely not arouse the alarm of other film and television companies and may be treated as a joke. Lionheart is different. It will inevitably be encircled and suppressed. According to Eric's memory of Netflix, many people in the industry knew about the open and secret struggle between the two sides at that time. After Netflix came out and started streaming, it soon ushered in the hostility of several major companies and TV stations. Several companies have joined forces to target and ban their works from appearing on the Netflix platform. In private, there are many sinister tricks, including threatening the special effects producer to choose one of the two, and if you want to continue to take our order, you are not allowed to accept Netflix's order. The harsh environment forced Netflix to seek help from institutions in Europe, Asia, and other places. And it wasn't until House of Cards broke out of the encirclement and followed up with a series of high-quality film and television dramas that it broke through the blockade and completed PUBG. But the siege is not over here. The source of the film cannot be blocked, and major companies are putting pressure on film festivals and award ceremonies such as Cannes, Berlin, and the Oscars. Movies that claim to be synchronized online cannot be called movies and are not worthy of competing with other normal theatrical films for awards. Even the three major film festivals had to succumb to this force and could only refuse Netflix's candidacy. If you can't get stuck in your development, then you can get stuck in your honor. Until Eric crossed, the blockade had not been broken. Netflix has experienced so many disgusting things, and Lionheart will inevitably not be able to escape it. All Eric can do is plan ahead and plan something in advance. Peter Jackson is just one of the people he's looking for, and Eric will also reach out to second-rate independent film and television companies such as DreamWorks, Lionsgate, and New Line. Can pull an ally is one. What if people are willing to cooperate? Each opened a bottle of beer. Eric, congratulations to Transformers on being the runner-up, and Finding Nemo is just around the corner. Hee hee, make fun of me? The quality of The Lord of the Rings 3 is very high. I threw in the towel in advance, okay? The two laughed and blew a bottle first. This bearded man has a bold and arrogant personality, not Spielberg's character of drinking red wine from a cup. Hiccup. Tell me, what's the matter with me? Can't I have a drink with you if it's okay? If I'm a big girl, there's some credibility to this reason. Eric, what the hell do you want to? I want to send you money, a lot of money. Hearing this, the other Jackson frowned, his eyes revealing doubt. We have had a great time working with Transformers, and I'm very satisfied with the technical level and efficiency of Weta Digital, so I'm going to continue to work with you. In the next 2 years, all of MGM's movies and special effects will be handed over to you. How about it? Peter Jackson didn't show a happy look. There must be a demon when things go wrong. I don't understand. Why do you do this? You should know that Weta Digital's level is the best in the industry, but the fees are also the highest in the industry. A lot of movie special effects, in fact, we don't need to do it at all, and ordinary small companies can do it. You're wasting your own money and you're going to spend tens of millions of dollars a year, which doesn't make any sense, Eric Cooper. I'm not a fool and don't believe that anyone would offer to give money to someone. Eric didn't intend to hide it from him. Peter Jackson was not the owner of a film and television company, and there was no competition with him. After listening to him, the bearded man had opened his mouth wide in surprise. "OMG, do you know what you're doing?" Eric nodded slightly. After being stunned for a moment, Peter Jackson stared at him directly and suddenly laughed. "Eric, just now a feeling suddenly rose in my heart, a very complicated feeling. This feeling is mixed with surprise, admiration, arrogance, contempt, respect, and other indescribable things, and that's how it feels to you. You want to challenge the whole of Hollywood on your own, and the courage is admirable. I'm 42 years old this year, and I suddenly had an urge to make a big fuss with you, and the feeling of being young is like coming back." Eric raised the corners of his mouth. "Peter, as long as the contract is signed, if someone makes trouble for you, you can completely excuse being deceived by me. After all, who would dislike it if there is money to be made? Ha ha ha, it seems that you even helped me think about the way back. Of course, I've always been open to my friends, and if you don't want to, I won't force it."
Bang!
The bearded man slapped on the table. "I joined, and I can make money and discuss some people, so I'm sure to join. Anyway, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is over, and I want to take a break for a while, at least for a year, and I won't touch big productions again. Say, how many shows are you going to open next year?" Eric thought about it. Marvel alone will have at least 2 foundations next year, as well as The Hunger Games, Inception, Transformers, and so on. He spread his 5 fingers, at least 5 big productions, plus others. I'm still a little worried about whether Weta Digital can be completed. Peter Jackson patted his chest. "I can do as much as you have. It's nothing more than adding machines and manpower." "Well, let's sign a contract first, and for the time being, agree on 30 films. 30 in 2 years? Just more, no less." After more than a month, Los Angeles ArcLight Cinema, following Transformers, Eric's second film directed this year, Adele's Life, also ushered in its premiere. Unlike the overwhelming momentum of Transformers, Adele's Life is not suitable for large-scale publicity, and even from the establishment of the film project to the start of filming and the completion of the film, it is always in a state of strict secrecy. Same-sex themes, although not as taboo as before, are still not a popular topic, and the LGBT trend will not rise for more than a decade. Judging from the major film festivals, Europe is relatively open to same-sex themes, and the Oscars are more conservative than Europe. In previous decades, there were same-sex films that were nominated for the Oscar for Best Picture, but none of them won the award. Even the popular theme, Brokeback Mountain, was filmed so well that it lost to Crash in the end. But is Brokeback Mountain really not as good as Crash? The media and many people think that this is not the case, more because the atmosphere was not open back then, and the Oscar judges will judge the situation and dare not break the shackles of the world. In 2017, Moonlight Boy beat Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge, La La Land, and other excellent films and won the Best Film Award. Because the social trend was already surging at that time, Oscar naturally took advantage of the trend and made a decision that most people did not expect. Then, in 2018, the jury was obviously bolder and even awarded the grand prize to The Shape of Water. A woman fell in love with an amphibian species, which is no longer a love between people. Outside of the United States, can you believe this thing can beat 3 billboards? The biggest reason why The Shape of Water won the award is none other than political correctness, and the views conveyed are too in line with Vice was set. From the development trend of the Oscars over the years, it can be seen how much the change in social atmosphere has affected a movie. Filmmakers still have a certain pursuit and understanding of art, but they dare not openly go against the will of the public. Not to mention ordinary people, there are many people who are prejudiced against same-sex movies and even homosexual. This is especially true in conservative states like South Carolina, where religion is predominant. So don't look at movies with same-sex themes that are filmed every year, but they will not be screened on a large scale, and some theater owners will refuse, which is difficult. It is more likely to choose to release dozens of theaters on a small scale, and if the response is okay, the scale will be gradually expanded, but there are only a handful of theaters that can break through 1,000 theaters. In the end, a leader like Brokeback Mountain was only released in more than 600 movie theaters, which is really a lot of resistance. With MGM's influence, it has helped the theater chain make a lot of money when almost all the movies released in the past year have been profitable. That's why the theater owner was willing to give Eric face, and the premiere barely reached 500 theaters, which was already the result of many negotiations to the limit. For a variety of special reasons, today is more of a symbolic ceremony than a premiere. There was no red carpet, no celebrities invited, only a large number of film critics came. Some were invited by MGM, and some took the initiative to come by themselves. Everyone wants to see, what is the composition of this strictly secret movie? The lights fell, and Eric sat in the middle, with Ashley and Mary on his left and right. It was the first time in months that the two women had appeared in public about the movie, and feeling their nervousness, Eric gently drew circles in the palms of their hands. On the big screen, the story officially begins, and the first part, encounter. Under the bright light of Leon, with Adele's debut, many film critics were dazzled. This kind of non-powdered appearance completely subverted Ashley's image in the past, making her from a cute and cool girl in the past to an ordinary girl who can be seen everywhere in daily life. Kelkinsby, a film critic in the entertainment column of the San Francisco Post, nodded secretly. As a woman, she liked that this change in actresses would make the movie more lively. And a good literary film should have this atmosphere, and the movie has a good beginning. In the next few minutes, Adele's daily life is shown, with an ordinary family, an ordinary school, an ordinary classroom, and a few gossip girlfriends. If there's a little bright color, it's a male classmate who loves her. "Hey Adele, can I sit here?" On the bus, the male classmate played by James McAvoy appeared on the stage, without the domineering president in commercial movies, and without the pointing and pointing of others. It was just a simple greeting, just like "you're in my life." There is a hint of crampedness and shyness in his expression, as if he is worried about the girl's rejection, making his image very different from that of the American GI in Transformers. Many people have just finished watching Transformers, and the resolute roar when they are dying is still echoing in their minds. As a result, looking at his current screen image, the contrast makes it difficult for many people to accept, but they have to admit that this young man has acting skills. Adele's love seems to have come, and the two start dating, but in the process Adele is always absent-minded and doesn't seem to be satisfied with the relationship. Just when the two were dating, Mary, with short blue hair, appeared with a girl in her arms, and in a stunned exchange, they completed a meeting for 10,000 years. Many film critics were immediately keenly aware of the anomaly, and in their experience, the plot seemed to be going in an unexpected direction. Sure enough, when Adele returned home, she was lying in bed alone, and the scene in her dream was not with her boyfriend. Adele, who woke up, was a little at a loss. Dating her boyfriend became more and more difficult, and she became more and more uncomfortable and had to confide in a strange mutual aid club. "I don't feel right. The relationship is not compatible. You broke up." "No, it's not his problem. It's me, and I feel like I'm missing something. I am very dull in the affection between men and women, obviously leaning on his shoulder, but like birds and fish, one soaring in the sky, the other diving deep in the sea." Using Tagore's poems, beautiful lines. Seeing this, many film critics couldn't help but admire in their hearts. Finally, Adele couldn't go against her heart's wishes and chose to break up with her boyfriend. "Adele, I don't understand. Am I not doing enough? No, it's my own problem. The two hugged each other and cried bitterly. One was crying about his lost love, and the other chose to be himself bravely because of guilt. After the breakup, she begins to search, looking for the girl who haunts her, and the two eventually meet in a same-sex bar. Choose to Love You. The movie lasted for more than half an hour, and Adele and Emma had an outburst of lust hidden in the deepest part of their hearts. In the movie theater, many people exclaimed, not because the scale of the bed scene was too large. The largest scale on the screen, and then some close-ups of the face, were edited by Eric without a dew point. If the dew point is reached, it will be classified as NC-17, and minors are prohibited from watching, which greatly affects the size of the audience. No dew point is our level. Minors can watch at least accompanied by their parents. This parental accompaniment is a very vague statement. Brother, cousin, distant relatives can be counted. The audience was surprised that Ashley and Mary were sisters. They were not two unrelated actresses. They were related by blood. This layer of relationship is accompanied by fascinating images, and even if you taste it, the impact is far greater than that of the explicit images. OMG. Oh my God. How did Eric Cooper convince them? The NBC and ABC critics looked at each other, and both read the surprise in each other's eyes. In the history of film, there has never been a similar situation. How do you shoot it? Isn't it awkward on set? Isn't there a psychological barrier? With this in mind, everyone's attention is highly concentrated, more than watching any movie. The movie also enters the second part, In Love. Adele and Emma, the tone of the picture becomes brighter, and both of them show the brightest smiles. But behind the laughter there are hidden dangers, and the environment in which they live can be said to be very different. Emma lives in an artistic family. Her parents are open-minded, and her friends encourage her to pursue true love and show her true self. But Adele's family is conservative, and most of her parents and friends are against homosexuality. The huge difference in environment caused contradictions in the lives of the two. Especially Adele did not dare to reveal her heart to her parents, which caused the two to have their first quarrel. Then the film enters the third chapter, The Difference. In the face of Emma's circle of friends, especially about art, Adele couldn't interject at all. She watched Emma talk and laugh with others like an outsider. And he could only silently clean up the kitchen, and the loss was written on his face, but the excited Emma did not pay attention. The two lack communication, and Adele likes to be passive and hold things in her heart. Emma was a little nervous. She didn't notice it, and just focused on her career. After a while, the pressure of not being able to integrate into the circle made Adele bored, especially seeing Emma feel uncomfortable because of her work. In a trance, she agreed to the pursuit of her male colleague, who wanted to go further, but was stopped by the sober Adele and could only send her home. But this scene was captured by Emma, and the two ushered in an outbreak of conflict. The film also enters its fourth chapter, Sinking. After the breakup, both of them were in pain, but not only because of the misunderstanding, but also because their lifestyles and ideological pursuits were too far apart. A year later, Adele changed into more professional clothes and a more mature hairstyle, and the two met again. How are you doing during this time? Well, what about you? As before, you've changed your hairstyle. Looks a little old, doesn't it? No, it's beautiful. The previous hairstyle was too messy. Are you still with that girl? Well, Liz had a baby, and we raised it together. How's it going? And her? Emma hesitated for a long time in the face of this question. Boring, or? Emma then looked into Adele's eyes. It's different from you, anyway. The hands of the two suddenly clasped together. Shall we start over? Emma was silent. Haven't you forgiven me yet? No, I've forgotten about those things. It doesn't matter. The two looked at each other silently. Tears flowed from their eyes at the same time, and they choked and cried about their thoughts. If the quarrel was a hoarse, emotional outburst, this scene is an outburst of restraint and repression, and it is very difficult. For these two scenes, Eric took a lot of effort to train these two sisters, which is not ordinary hard work. At the end of the movie, Adele comes to attend an exhibition of Emma and Liz, chatting with each other calmly and leaving calmly. No one knew why she came, and no one paid attention to when she quietly left. Trance. As the movie ends, the theater lights come back on. But the expected applause did not appear, and the hundreds of people present had mixed faces. Ashley and Mary's hearts suddenly swelled. What does this mean? Silent protest? They had thought of a bad situation. After all, it was indeed appalling for their own sisters to go into battle. But when I really ran into it, I was still a little at a loss. At the critical moment, Eric picked up the two of them and took a group of main creators to the stage, and the process still has to be completed. Even if they have to be scolded, the loser can't lose. After going up, I found that the audience seat was already empty, and it was definitely not because of the duration, because Eric compressed the original 3-hour plot to more than 2. It's not because of the length of time, it's either not to taste, or I hate this genre, or I hate this group. On the high platform, looking at the film critics and audiences not far away, the two sides looked at each other silently. Today's ceremony is very simple. There are no stars, and Eric naturally did not invite the host. Seeing that indulging in it was not a solution, Andrea picked up the microphone and prepared to jump on the thunder first. Eric gave her the opportunity to be a director, and she knew how to reciprocate. Smack. But just as she was about to speak, there was a crisp applause from the audience. Smack. Then the second and third clappers appeared. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, most of the people began to applaud, and enthusiastic applause instantly filled the hall. The hanging heart suddenly fell to the ground, and everyone on the stage breathed a long sigh of relief. Not everyone liked it, though, and amid the applause, Eric saw some of the audience get up and leave their seats. Counting the people who left the table halfway through, there were about 60 or 70 people who left without reading it. Adele's life was not too good, and it was probably counted. The audience was still very excited about Eric's new movie, so the 400-seat theater was full, and in the end 74 seats were vacated, and the departure rate was 18.5%, nearly 1/5. The departure rate will be reflected in the subsequent attendance rate, and these leaving audiences will naturally not say good things about the movie. If you have a good attitude, you will say, "That movie, I watched it halfway through and left. It's really boring." Those with a bad attitude will spray homosexuality, God is not allowed, a piece of garbage, deformed love, etc., and are likely to go to major websites to maliciously brush up on bad reviews. This is still in Los Angeles, where the atmosphere is relatively open, and there are still so many viewers who are not optimistic and unacceptable, let alone conservative areas. Eric, I'm a little worried. Ashley said apprehensively. What are you worried about? Don't you see? We got applause, and the critics didn't find fault with them, and it wasn't easy to satisfy these guys. Eric reassured. Those critics are looking at your face, and if it's a normal director or if you're not there, they'll definitely blow it. Hee hee, you think too much. Your performance is great. You contributed breakthrough acting. My eyes are very powerful. I can see who is sincere and who is fake. Mary rubbed Eric's shoulders vigorously. It's not just word of mouth, but also the box office. Less than 500 theaters. You may have to lose money. Yes, I haven't even asked. How much is the investment in Adele's life? Ashley looked at curiously. $40 million. So much. The two sisters' eyes widened at the same time. How could it cost $40 million? The filming was completed in 2 months, and there were not too many group performances. Only a small number of scenes were rented venues, and the rest was done at MGM's film and television base. There's no plot that requires the use of special effects, and Ashley and I are paid negligibly. Eric, you're mistaken. You can't spend $40 million no matter how you calculate it. Yes, I think it's $20 million at most. Don't you hire a very exaggerated behind-the-scenes team? Seeing their surprise, Eric laughed. $40 million is a publicly available figure, and if you want to know the real data, it's actually about $15 million. Hearing this, Mary rolled her eyes. I know that major companies like to exaggerate some costs, but there is no such thing as you, which is almost twice exaggerated. It's not as outrageous as twice as much, 0.5 times. 40 million and 15 million, is the math of the American elite so bad? Eric pointed to his nose. And my screenwriter and director's fee, the youngest best screenwriter in history, is this title worth $3 million. Add to that the fact that I'm also the writer and director of Transformers, and it's worth $800 million at the global box office, which is worth $10 million. Wait for Transformers to surpass Finding Nemo and win this year's box office title, the youngest box office champion director, and add another $2 million is not too much. $15 million is just that I didn't pay myself a salary, otherwise it should be $30 million. That's how you settle accounts. The two sisters laughed angrily and laughing. That's right, that is. MGM was almost equivalent to my sole proprietorship when I was filming, and it didn't matter if my salary was not opened. And after I went public, it would be 1 yard to 1 yard, and I couldn't lose any of my points. Ashley breathed a sigh of relief. If it is $15 million, the pressure to return on investment will be much less, and if you expand the scale of screenings, such as 1,000 theaters, it should be no problem. TSK, who told you that it's only $15 million and that's the production and the publicity doesn't count? Didn't you keep it mysterious, and you didn't make a publicity all the time? Mary gently punched him in the chest, making him like to gasp for air. Eric grabbed his fist and took her in his arms, and without hesitation, in front of Ashley, reached into her blouse and squeezed it hard. That was before the movie was released, and now it's time to start publicizing, especially the Golden Globes and the Oscars. These two awards ceremonies are the most important thing to spend money on. Have you forgotten what I promised you? Of course. The two girls didn't forget that they were fooled by Eric at that time with a Golden Globe actress and Oscar actress. Eric, are you really going to fight for us? Eric nodded seriously. For my own women, I have always done it. Kiss me, darling. Ashley's eyes reached out as Mary pressed Eric's hand tightly to her chest. There are too many cases where literary films can't get back to their roots, even if you count the box office, DVDs, and various copyright income, there are still a lot of losses. Because the audience itself is small, it is not the type that the market likes, and the theater refuses to screen if it can't make money in the cinema. The theater's refusal to show the screen led to less impact and less awareness, and then led to the DVD and copyright not being sold as well, creating a vicious circle. The only way to break the game is to participate in various influential film festivals, win awards, or at least get a few nominations, more or less famous, and it is easy to sell if you have fame. Among all the film festivals, the most famous is undoubtedly the Oscar, and the value of the film that can win the Oscar can skyrocket by hundreds of millions of dollars. It's such an exaggeration, and the three major European film festivals are slightly inferior. Therefore, it is necessary to rush for the prize according to the set goal, although he disdains to use Harvey Weinstein's kind of smear opponents and curry favor with the judges. However, conventional means such as buying advertisements, filling water armies, and engaging in public opinion all have to be used, and this process will also cost millions of dollars. If you don't win the award in the end, the money is equivalent to a waste, and it's not for nothing that Harvey Weinstein hates Cooper and his son so much. This year's MGM marketing awards have been set, which are The Devilous and Adele's Life, plus a Get Out. After trying their best to compete for Theron or the Olsen sisters, they will fight for an original script for themselves, and these two awards do not conflict with The Lord of the Rings 3. Forget about the Best Actor. The movies produced by MGM in the past year do not seem to have given birth to particularly outstanding actors, and the competitiveness is too weak. Transformers can only compete for technical awards, and it conflicts with The Lord of the Rings 3, and there is a high probability that it will not win the award. The jury has been snubbing The Lord of the Rings crew for 2 years, and it is impossible to explain it if it doesn't give this phenomenal work, which claims to have saved the masterpiece of the magical epic genre movie. In the process of The Lord of the Rings soaring and Transformers harvesting the endgame, the word of mouth of Adele's life began to be lifted. Major newspapers, forums, and websites have given feedback on the impression. Los Angeles Times. Adele's life is an experiential film, a movie for ordinary people, a movie for life itself. In the plain shot, you can clearly see the freckles on the actors' faces, and the scarcity of the soundtrack seems to announce that life itself has no main theme, and the unadorned dialogue rushes straight over. Putting aside the same-sex elements expressed in the film, this is a very life movie, suitable for everyone, and we watch movies like this to see ourselves. The New York Times. Adele's life is a high-quality love masterpiece, and if you go deeper, you will find that gay love is just its appearance, and it is about love in a deeper way, regardless of gender, only love and life. Salt Lake City Entertainment News. Invited to the premiere of The Life of Adele, I had high expectations for this mysterious movie. Facts have also proved that Eric Cooper is not only a good commercial film director, he is as comfortable with the control of literary films, like a veteran who has been immersed in it for many years. It's rare to have a movie where the first hour is almost all big close-ups, filming the main character going to class, eating, sleeping, masturbating, having sex, bathing, flirting, but it doesn't bore the viewer and doesn't feel aggressive. A good film, a good director who is both commercial and artistic, this film deserves to be savored with your heart. NBC Entertainment Online. A good movie only has to show the most realistic appearance of life, and Adele's life is such a movie. Adele's story is just an entrance, and what moves the audience is actually our own world, and everyone can see themselves in Adele. The ability to bring out the two heroines is a result of both Eric Cooper's directing skills and the Olsen sisters' own efforts. They really scared me. They completely got rid of the shackles of the youth comedies of the past, and their acting skills reached the realm of returning to the basics. Especially the interpretation of the two emotional scenes, which are completely master level, and they will inevitably have a place at next year's Golden Globe Awards and Oscars. ABC Entertainment. This is a film with a deep dissection of feelings, from which we can see the impact of life on love. Love is beautiful, but life is often a piece of chicken feathers. There is not so much passion. Firewood, rice, oil, and salt is the destination. And the difference in values and class is the reason why the two have to break up. They can't fit into each other. They don't have a common language, and the estrangement will appear sooner or later. If they look at each other from afar, they love each other deeply, but it is not necessary to live together. It will only destroy the beauty of the establishment. It's like that line in the movie, they are like birds and fish. They can love each other, but they are definitely not suitable for being together. Of course, not all the media said good things. The independent newspaper jumped its face every day and began to criticize again, and the angry Mary directly tore up the newspaper. Film critics are mainly from an artistic point of view, and most of them applaud the film. But this is not the case when it comes to the audience. There is no shortage of abuse on the internet, and the most intuitive reaction is the IMDb score. From yesterday's score of 8.7 all the way down, until today, it has fallen to 8.4 points, and suddenly there are a lot of one-star reviews, and the proportion of one-star ratings has reached 1.8%, which is quite a high proportion among good movies. And it is foreseeable that the proportion will rise, and the score will continue to fall. The Olsen sisters' Facebook account was also attacked on a large scale, with many people running to leave messages. Eric told them to turn off comments and then blocked a number of accounts, which made things better. It's so disappointing. Why don't you reconcile Adele and Emma? Why do you have to keep them separate? Boycott homophobic films with gay gimmicks. Please don't be superstitious about critics. This is a disappointing movie. Why make this kind of movie? Homosexuality is not recognized. God does not allow human beings to behave like this. Disgusting story, disgusting actors, disgusting director. I swear never to watch Eric Cooper and Sister Olsen movies again. Sisters all in battle. Don't you feel sick, Sister Olsen? Don't you know what shame is? Go to hell. This kind of movie is completely blasphemous against Christ, and if I know that there are movie theaters in Louisiana that dare to show it, I'm going to burn the movie theaters. The film's reviews were mixed overall, with $8.63 million at the box office in the first 3 days of the opening weekend, which is mediocre. I can't say it's good, but I can't say it's bad, and the current attendance rate can reach about 40%. If this trend continues, it should be possible to add another 100 or 200 theaters in the second week. But reality often doesn't go the way it should. In his sleep, Eric is shaken awake, and Theron takes his phone to him. Eric, your phone, Sister Olsen. Eric looked at the time. It wasn't even 8 o'clock. He had only slept for more than 3 hours after fighting with Theron all night last night, and now his eyelids were fighting. Let's see. In case your little lover is in a hurry. Smack. A slap on Theron's buttocks, teaching her to talk nonsense. Ashley and Mary are still relatively regular, and they are trained by him to be more obedient, unlike Nico's love of surprise attacks. He calmly answered the phone. Mary, it's me. Is there something wrong? Eric, where are you? Are you still sleeping? Eager voices came from the other side. Of course I'm sleeping. Please check the time before you call. It's not time to go to work yet. Eric, you'd better get up and turn on your computer and see that a movie theater in Massachusetts is on fire. Well, what's my business with the movie theater on fire? Am I going to bother you about irrelevant matters? After saying that, the phone hung up and the two looked at each other. Honey, go and take a look. I guess something urgent has happened, and her tone is not like a joke. Under Theron's persuasion, Eric yawned and rolled over to get out of bed, turned on his computer, and saw this item hanging on Yahoo News. Social news, said Eric, who suddenly had a bad feeling. I saw a few pictures of burning buildings, and a few of them of movie theaters burned to ruins. There is also a picture of a man being held down by a police officer. And next to the man, there was a fast sign lying on the ground, which read in blood-red font, "No to homosexuality." Honey, what's going on? Theron didn't know when he walked up behind Eric and gently rubbed his talion. It was too long to toss last night, and Theron knew that his man hadn't recovered yet. Feeling the warm, delicate skin, Eric sighed. It's not good to disturb people's dreams early in the morning. Massachusetts. Yesterday, there was an extreme anti-homophobic guy who set fire to a movie theater. Oh my God, is anyone dead? Theron's eyes widened in surprise. Luckily, more than a dozen people were injured in various ways, but none were burned to death, and the cinema and the surrounding houses were burned to the ground. It's so serious? Why set it on fire? Is it a movie? Eric shook his head helplessly slightly. We have to admit that there is a group of crazy people in the world, and their minds have been distorted. This guy didn't flee after setting the fire, but waited in place, waiting for the police and the media to arrive. When the reporters came, they held signs and shouted slogans such as "Homosexuality is shameful," "Anti-homosexuality," "Homosexuality is blasphemous," and so on, and shouted that it was because of the release of Adele's Life in this movie theater that they were going to set fire to those homosexuals and pro-gay perverts. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. God didn't teach him to set fire to others. Theron sighed. I'm not surprised if it's Massachusetts. Have you heard about last month? What's the matter? November 18th. By the way, when Transformers premiered, You were busy. Also in Massachusetts, the state Supreme Court heard a case in which 7 same-sex couples, including Julie and Goodrich, filed a lawsuit against the Department of Public Health asking them to be allowed to register their marriage as normal couples. There was a lot of noise about it, and many lawmakers were involved, including President Bush's unequivocal opposition to same-sex marriage, and the state Supreme Court has yet to make a decision. If you pay more attention to the news in Massachusetts, you'll see that there are demonstrations every few days, both for and against same-sex marriage. At such a sensitive juncture, Adele's Life was released again, which must have stimulated the nerves of the anti-homogeneous crowd and led to this extreme event. After listening to Theron, Eric secretly wondered, "Honey, there was an arson, and those media must be going to report it again, and someone will definitely throw dirty water on you. I know that at least the Independent will never miss an opportunity to hack me. And what are you going to do?" Eric looked up at Theron. "My big beauty, tell me, do you have any ideas? If you can't escape my advice, you'd better strike first. You want me to fly over and visit those patients? Well, it's better to cover their medical bills, which might cost $1 million or two, but it can give you a good reputation for the movie and MGM. Standing on the moral high ground, you can rationalize and blame others." I didn't say the second half of the sentence, but at least it can silence a lot of people who attack you, and it will help the promotion of the movie, and turning around the word of mouth is also good for the box office, isn't it? Eric couldn't help but pinch her pretty face. "Clever woman. Are you interested in coming to work in my company?" Poop. Theron kissed Eric on the forehead. "Can I keep the post?" "No problem. Always reserved for you." The two kissed together, and feeling Eric's little brother start to be majestic again, Theron hurriedly got up and dodged. "I've only slept for more than 3 hours. Don't you know you're tired?" "Hee, hey, I'll do it with you. How can I be tired?" "Obey you. Don't make trouble. Go now. The sooner the better." At about 12 p.m., Eric arrived in Boston, the capital of Massachusetts, with the Olsen sisters, and then went straight to the hospital. On the way, Eric received a call from Xing. Sure enough, public opinion has fermented. The media and the internet are hyping up this matter, and some media have already criticized us. What did those guys say? There was anger in Mary's tone, and the sisters were woken up early this morning. It's the same old thing, saying that this kind of movie should not be filmed at a sensitive time, asking MGM to show it, asking major movie theaters to refuse, and asking the audience to consciously boycott it. And then also asked us to apologize publicly, which is probably what it means. Bastard, these demands are so unreasonable, and it's not a movie theater that we set on fire. Shouldn't the criminals be severely punished? Don't pay attention to these. It doesn't make sense with these people's logic. Go through the process when you go to the hospital in a while, and then accept the visit. Don't make radical remarks. You know, we are businessmen, not politicians, and businessmen can't offend any group if they want to make money, and it's right to do what we should do. An hour later, the car arrived at the gate of the hospital, which was filled with vehicles from various television stations. When the three Eric got out of the car, they instantly attracted the attention of all the reporters, and a group of people rushed over like sharks smelling blood, surrounded them, with long guns and short guns on their faces and questions. "Mr. Cooper, why are you coming to the hospital at this point in time?" "Ashley, can you answer a question? Do you think the arson had anything to do with the movie?" "Mr. Cooper, what was it that prompted you to make this film and to use the sisters as the double protagonists?" "Mary, look here. What is your attitude towards homosexuality?" "Ashley, Mary, it is now rumored that you two sisters have a friendship that goes beyond family affection. Can you explain that?" Fortunately, Eric did not expect the operation to go smoothly and hired 5 bodyguards in advance, and the media was still secondary, mainly for fear of further extremist attacks. He, a traverser, has no system, no superpowers, and it's a weak point. Eric said loudly, "Please be quiet." After hearing this sad news, we were in a very bad mood and deeply saddened, so we immediately flew over from Los Angeles. "Please let us go in first to visit the victims, is it okay?" After saying that, the 5 big men forcibly parted the crowd and opened a passage for the 3 of them. When I walked into the building, I was first led to the lounge by the hospital where the victims' family members gathered. Seeing the 3 of them, many people had mixed expressions. Eric knew that there must be a part of it that had a grudge against himself. After all, if you don't make this movie, my kids won't watch it, and if you don't watch it, they won't suffer misfortune. Guys, I want you to understand that I'm sorry for this happened. It wasn't our intention. We just want to make a movie, nothing else, and we're sorry for what happened to you. Of course, we understand that no amount of sorry words can make up for the suffering you have suffered, so in the spirit of humanitarianism, MGM and Double Star Entertainment have decided to cover the medical expenses of all the victims, hoping that in this way, they can alleviate your pain and burden. Hearing this, everyone's eyes showed a friendly look. Money can't stop the tragedy, but it can at least make up for the pain it causes. The 3 of them stayed in the lounge for a while, and then met with the victims who were less injured one by one, took photos and signed small gifts, and said a lot of words of encouragement. There are still 3 more seriously injured in the rescue, and the hospital said that it will do everything possible and the probability of successful treatment is still very high, so Eric is relieved. If you don't die, public opinion will not deteriorate, it's the best. After doing this on camera, Eric and Sister Olsen walked out of the building for an official interview. Fox reporters were the first to come forward and throw out the bombshell questions. "Mr. Cooper, did you choose to make this film because you support homosexuality?" Eric didn't answer directly, but asked rhetorically, "Mr. Reporter, have you watched Adele's life?" "Not yet," the other party replied with some embarrassment. "Then I suggest you take a serious look, and after watching it, you will find that Adele's life just borrows the perspective of gay people, and the core of the movie is actually love and life. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight, as long as you're human, you have love, doesn't it?" Without getting the answer he wanted, the independent reporter continued to provoke the question, "Mr. Cooper, what do you think about homosexuality? Do you think it's against the Bible?" Eric shook his head. "I'm sorry, I'm not a believer and can't answer this question accurately, but I respect everyone's beliefs." "Let's talk about it briefly, everyone wants to know." The reporter asked. "Well, actually, my mom is a devout believer and she goes to church every week, and sometimes she pulls me in. She often taught me that it was God who created us in His own image, and it was God who created humanity in His own image. Then I can't help but wonder if we are all doppelgangers of God in some sense. Wouldn't it be true that same-sex feelings are also part of God? After all, human sexuality is innate, are you right?" A rhetorical question left the independent reporter speechless, and he couldn't help but sigh at Eric Cooper's sharp teeth. "I have long known that this kid is difficult to deal with, but I didn't expect the other party's level to be so high. Every time I find trouble with each other, but I have never succeeded. I can only be hard and black, and I will be scolded by users. Of course, I'm not a Christian, and this interpretation may be incorrect, but if I'm wrong, my mother will definitely teach me a lesson when I get home." He, Eric added again, causing a lot of chuckles, and then the question became harmonious. After a 10-minute interview, the 3 reiterated their position that we are representatives of love, not of a certain group. After doing this, the 3 of them hurried back to Los Angeles. That night, reports appeared on the internet, with an impartial attitude, taking the initiative to bear medical expenses that had nothing to do with them, and the 3 of them won praise for their approach. Even the media, which is not dealing with Eric, does not dare to report indiscriminately this time. What if there are extremist people? Later, the victims' families began to be interviewed, And the less injured victims also posted updates on Facebook, posting photos of themselves with the Olsen sisters and small gifts. Words of praise further confirm the act of kindness. Several Republican lawmakers praised this, and Democratic lawmakers similarly praised MGM and Double Star Entertainment for their humanitarian spirit. Within a few days, public opinion took a big turn. The police began to increase patrols around movie theaters, and the few extremists who continued to shout could not make a big wave. The improvement in reviews is most directly reflected in the box office. When Adele's Life came out at the box office in a week, many people couldn't understand it. Even if many people are not interested in literary films, they still enter the cinema under the influence of public opinion, and watching it seems to have become a trend, and many people have begun to call for local cinemas to release it as soon as possible. 500 movie theaters earned nearly $21 million in the week, and a single theater exceeded $40,000, ranking second on the week's box office charts. The first place is, naturally, The Lord of the Rings 3, the Middle-earth Nights box office $108 million a week, although unfortunately did not break the records of Transformers and Spider-Man, but it also ranks third in North American film history, and the stamina is even longer. The third runner-up is naturally Transformers, which achieved a good result of $16.6 million at the box office, and the overseas box office achieved $41 million, and the global total box office exceeded $850 million, only half a position behind Finding Nemo. Just when things were going well, the Massachusetts Supreme Court handed down its verdict. 7 justices voted 4-3 to rule that the state government did not have sufficient grounds to prohibit same-sex marriage and that the current marriage bill violated the freedom and equality provisions of the state's constitution, and the Supreme Court gave the state legislature 180 days to amend the bill. In other words, 6 months later, Massachusetts will not only allow same-sex cohabitation, but also legally recognize their marriage, which is also the first state in the United States to allow same-sex marriage. As soon as the verdict came out, it was like a shock, and it immediately sparked discussion in the entire United States. However, due to the vicious incident that has just occurred, the opposition has obviously weakened a lot, and the Massachusetts Supreme Court definitely saw the timing before deciding to do it. The Olsen sisters also congratulated them on Facebook and in media interviews, regardless of gender, just because of love. This is big love. Same-sex and supportive groups celebrate each other, and voices of support and laughter can be heard everywhere. Someone launched a campaign to celebrate this great event by calling everyone to watch Adele's Life together. Clear-eyed people, it can be seen that although the series of influences brought by the movie are not the decisive factors, they do objectively promote the passage of the verdict. The Olsen sisters' Facebook account followers soared, rising by more than 1.8 million in one day, more than doubling the number. Many people announced that they had become die-hard fans of Ashley and Mary, and the call for the Golden Globe and Oscar actresses was very loud.